Thank you. Thanks so much again. I'm Kelly Mullins. I work at EA. I've been in this role for about 5 months, and it always surprises me how few people have actually heard of our company. So we made a video just to do an introduction. Okay, so before I dive into the subject matter of picking which vendors to work with and kind of going through this this process of figuring out who you're going to work with, I wanted to take a step back and really talk about how we think about advertising at EA. I think everybody here in this room, or most of the people who are game developers, are very passionate about building a game experience, building an environment that's a completely immersive, completely addictive game, and we feel the same way. We view advertising, though, not necessarily as a monetization strategy entirely. We really look at it as a way to enable as many people as possible to interact with our games. We want to have our games used as widely as possible. So that's really, when we think about it, that's the methodology that we're working off of. The other thing I want to touch on here, is that games as a major media environment. It's people look at Facebook and YouTube as these media behemoths, and they are. But today, over 1 billion hours will be spent playing games worldwide. So again, that's a tremendous number. So again, as you look at that, that's actually a huge number, and we think it's something that distinguishes our environment. And the good news here is that it's just going to get bigger. We have a hugely growing global market, and there was a time when I think a lot of people maybe thought of the U.S. first. Certainly, that's no longer true. The U.S. is just one of the markets that we operate in. It's, but mobile gaming especially is a global environment with the rise of Brazil, India, Russia, these growing economies, the rapid adoption of smartphones. We really do view this market as a global opportunity, and we're really tailoring our games and our advertising to interact against that. Now, one of the things that when we look at mobile especially, we look at game monetization, is that the reality is that even under the best of circumstances, only about 5% of your users are ever going to actually make an in-app purchase. Again, this is an aggregate number. That really leaves 95% of your user base who's not buying anything. And again, this is where we think about advertising as a way to reach that other 95%. And again, it's not just necessarily monetization, as it is thinking through how do we use advertising to let people go farther, faster inside the games. And really where that starts off with is, if you look at the ad solutions that are out there, we look at them broadly in 3 buckets. You've got your reach ad units. These are primarily banners and interstitials. These are just video ads, something that's evolved from online, has come over to the games environment. So again, that's one bucket that we look at. The other bucket is engagement. So within an engagement, we're really talking about offer walls here, and I think 2 of the prior presentations really talked quite a bit about how those ad units work. We're huge fans of them. And then lastly, and really the third leg of this is how do you add value in these engagements. So these are like ads that are running on deck, but they're really designed to deeply engage the users, and they're designed to enable somebody who may not be willing to spend right then to go farther faster inside the game. Everything we do here, and we'll look at it, all of these things all have a place inside the game. So again, these strategies, it's not one or the other. Often inside the game, the appropriate game, you can use all three of them at the same time. Where it starts really is looking at ads as a strategic decision. So if you're looking at this, you really need to plan from the very start of the game. You need to look at not just, again, what's your monetization strategy, but what is your audience engagement? How are you going to keep people engaged? What tactics are you going to use to keep people moving from level 1 to level 30? And a big part of that is going to be looking at your game mechanics. If you have a game that's got very much has a in-app currency, either the grinded out type of currency or the premium currency, that's a great way to use offer walls or some sort of engagement ad type strategy. So again, you want to really look at that and think it through based on the game mechanics that will dictate the types of vendors that you're going to work with. The next part of that really falls into, once you make that decision, it's really ad solutions. Which ones are you going to operate off of? Are you looking at reach ads, or are you looking at engagement type ads? So again, you got to start from the very beginning and run it all the way through. And then ultimately, and this is where I keep coming back to this point, is you need to maximize the value of the ads to the end users. Now, once you've decided, hey, this is the methodology that we're going to use, and you decided we're going to use advertising, one consideration you do need to keep in mind is that when you decide to use ads, you're not just using ads, you're actually acquiring another customer set. Advertisers have made a decision to advertise in the games. They do expect a certain amount of value, and that's really where you want to think about the value of the ads, the placement, the frequency of the ads, how often the ads are going to appear. So that's one consideration set that needs to be kind of top of mind. The next part of that, and this kind of falls out of that again, is revenue. The better the ad placement, the more revenue that you're going to realize from the game itself. So that's actually a huge consideration. And then, lastly, it's stronger performance metrics and what's the end user experience going to look like. We've seen data where we have the right ad placements. They may look like they're a bit overwhelming, but users love them. It actually keeps people coming back. The right ad placement actually drives people to keep coming back to the game, because they know if they come back, if they do some activity in the game, they go to the offer wall, they can actually gain some currency and then maybe go a little bit farther, go a little bit faster inside the game. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we look at these ads and the types of ads that we have here. Again, reach is an ad metric. It's something that came over from, actually it's really a vestige of print and television, something that went from online to the gaming environment. Here's an example of our Pogo game. We have two ad units here, both banners. When I look at these, and I know that these can be looked at as being somewhat inelegant, but I got to say that some of the vendors that we work with, the best vendors that we choose to work with, are very smart about how they use banners, particularly in the area of data. One of the huge advances in online advertising has been the ability to use data to serve an ad that's absolutely relevant to the end user. We see this a lot online, and that's advancements actually coming over to mobile. So when you look at this methodology, and again, these are just a few of the vendors that we work with, one of the first questions that we ask is, how are you gathering the data? What are you doing with the data? And then how are you optimizing that data on the back end? So if, for example, if we work with AdMob and they're actually going out working with advertisers, we want to know that they're actually really spending a lot of time and using the right optimization algorithms to put the right ad in front of the right person. Because again, the games are a immersive environment. The last thing we want to do is put a banner ad up that is not relevant to the end user. The next type of ad here we have, and again, I think two of the speakers before me touched on this, is really offer walls. The offer wall engagements we are huge fans of this methodology. It's a great way for end users to come in, earn some free currency, but there are a couple things that you should keep in mind that we keep in mind as we go through this. One is that the offer wall providers that we work with, we really focus on those vendors who have a diversity of offer wall offers. So, for example, the offer walls used to be a little bit obtrusive in terms of what the offers actually were. It was sign up for a credit card, or it was sign up for a Netflix subscription. Today, we're actually seeing more and more brands look at offer walls as a way to reach an audience. So you'll have a consumer packaged goods company that has an app. They want to use the offer wall to distribute that app. Or you'll have a movie studio or a television network that wants to do video within the offer wall. So again, it's one of the first questions we ask vendors is, what types of ads do you have? Then the other question that we look at here is looking at who's doing the best job optimizing the offer wall. Companies like Supersonic have a really interesting technology for optimizing the ad. And again, I'll keep coming back to this, but we really want to make sure that the ads that show up in the offer wall are completely relevant, or as relevant as possible, to the end user. So again, we work with companies like Supersonic who do a great job of doing those types of offer walls. So again, that's one key aspect for us. The last type of ad, and I'll show you an example of this, is an ad that we have at EA. We call it EA Squared. It's actually electronic arts engagement ads, but it's an ad that, like the Tap Joy example, and a badge appears on the game canvas. The user clicks on it. It's entirely an opt-in experience. They can choose to engage with the video. If they do that, they get currency out of that. We think this is really the future of advertising, especially for games, because again, it's opt-in. There's a value exchange mechanism. We think it's really the way to go. Let me show you an example of something we did in Monopoly. So again, that's entirely an opt-in experience. We're spending a lot of time and effort working with different vendors on this space. We sell this ad unit directly. We do have the advantage of having that direct sales force, but there are a number of vendors in this space who are doing really interesting work here. Each of the types of currency, you can redeem these for actual coins. Sometimes if you're on the right platform, you can actually create a special item which can be redeemed. Then you also have companies like Session M, which actually do real-world currency. So if you watch enough ads, you can actually go through and redeem it for a Starbucks card, for example. So again, we work with these companies. We think they do a great job, and we're very focused on making sure that that we are providing them with the right assets they need from their point of view to make sure it works for our end users. So where do we think? I just want to say a quick word about ad optimization. Kind of skip through this. I think I touched on it a lot, but it is something that we're very focused on, which is how do you gather data? How do you take the data that's sitting in your databases and employ that the right way for your ad units? A couple questions you should be asking of your vendors as you go through this is, A, how are they gathering the data, and B, what are they doing with it? There are regulations like COPA, which we fully support, but that's something that you need to take into account as you're building your game. And then lastly, and this is really an issue for online data, is data leakage. You want to make sure that any data that you're sharing with the vendor is only being used for yourself and for the benefit of your customers. So, where do we think things are going? I'm not sure if you're not familiar, RTB stands for real-time bidding. Effectively what it means is that every impression that you push out is going to get bidded on by a whole network of ad buyers. That's technology that's transforming the online environment. It's actually starting to hit mobile. We're very enthusiastic about it. And again, it's not just about, we get more revenue from it because it's an auction-based system, but it's also a function that the people who are bidding on that are actually people who are going to be able to put the right ad in front of the right customer. So again, RTB is something that we're very focused on, and there are vendors in this space. AdMob, for example, is doing a great job with that. So we're very focused on that. Optimization, I think I've touched on a little bit, and then data. And then lastly, one of the things that we're looking at are new ad formats. Again, I think I touched on the EA Square example, which was where the high engagement ads. But one of the things that we're very focused on is looking for partners, looking for vendors who are very smart about data so that we can share with them data. For example, if we know somebody is struggling to get through level 6, we may be able to pop them an ad that helps them to get through that area. So again, we're looking for vendors who are smart about using that data and who are being innovative in how they approach that problem. So I think that's it. I know I'm the next to last person between you and the cocktail, so with that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Actually, I think the cocktail started like a half an hour ago, so I'm surprised that there's not more beers in hands out here while they listen to you talk about ads. I've always felt that the beers help the ads go down. Thank you very much. I will open the floor to questions. Questions for Kelly? It's always the guy in the back. Have you ever noticed that? I think I've lost like 15 pounds at this conference. Not that I couldn't use it, but...
Right now, it seems that revenue generation for games is trending towards virtual goods purchases. A lot of publishers report 85 to 90% of all revenue comes from virtual goods purchases, only 10 to 15% from ads. Where do you think that ratio is going to go in the future?
I think that, well, it depends on the market, right? But I think that it's actually probably going to stabilize around advertising, maybe being closer to 20% of the overall mix. We're just scratching the surface on being able to serve the right ad to the right person, so especially in mobile. So as that technology becomes a little more developed, I think we'll be able to realize higher eCPMs for certain ad placements.
I like the idea of forcing the customer to watch an ad in order to get a hint to get past level 6. Any other questions?
Thanks for the great presentation. I sort of noticed that we don't talk a lot about creatives. We talk about technology, how different kind of ad types do we have, what can we do technology-wise, but not so much about, hey, how do we introduce art? How do we actually do the creatives in the ads? So I sort of feel like I'm really happy that I'm not a marketing artist in mobile advertising, because I feel that nobody respects them at the moment. But I'm really curious to know, like, do you have some kind of a take on how to actually combine sort of like the science and the art in mobile advertising?
Sure. We actually have an ad unit that one of our studios developed, which is really deeply integrated into the game experience itself. And we are running tests on that right now. I like it because it's a very creative way to introduce the ad. It's not obtrusive. And so that's something that we're kind of focused on. I actually prefer ad units like that as opposed to just doing banners or videos, because I think they're more effective.
That was a topic that was discussed by Damon Marshall in the Supersonic Ads presentation. I don't know if you got an opportunity to see that presentation. If not, it'll be available on video online, and his presentation is as well. And I think there were some really great examples of how game creative and ad creative blend to create a more sort of seamless and engaging experience. So if you didn't see that, I recommend it.
Since EA has large presence not only in mobile but also in online gaming, how important is it to you to select vendors, particularly when it comes to serving ad tech, that is kind of helps you in both, or like a one platform that you can manage both?
Right now we have a sort of bifurcated tech stack, and we're managing that basically through ad ops, making sure that if we get an ad buy and we want to run it across every platform, it puts a little operational stress on us to be able to do that correctly, but we're okay with it for now. I think in the future, especially as mobile gains traction, we'll probably want to have some sort of unified ad structure, but for now I think we're okay with where we are.
We have time for one more question, if there is one more question. Okay then. Thank you, Kelly.
Oh, there's one more.
Oh, there is one more.
You didn't mention Facebook at all. What's your view about Facebook and EA?
Oh, and what? Well, in what context? I mean, do we
Does EA do Facebook advertising?
do we accept advertising from Facebook? Is that your question? The other way around. Do we advertise on Facebook? We have games that do run on Facebook. We have a lot of social games still on that platform. So yeah, we do advertise in that environment. We think it's actually, again, it's still, it's not as robust as it once was, but we still actually see quite a few gains out of there.
All right. Thank you
All
very
right, thank
much.
you.